Once there was a Homo heidelbergensis who was butchering a deer carcass on a riverbank. He crouched over the animal, pinning a leg down with his left hand, and worked a sharpened flint along the joint with his right. And sometimes, when the blade skidded off the bone, it left a shallow groove in the bone itself. This individual lived about 500,000 years ago in what's now northern Spain, and the grooves he left behind reveal something about the hand that made them, based on the direction those cut marks slant, and on marks found on animal bones at sites across Europe and Africa. Archaeologists have figured out that most of our extinct relatives were already right-handed, just like most of us today, roughly 9 in 10 to be exact. But no other placental mammal prefers one side of the body, not even chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, and no human population anywhere in the world has ever been recorded as being mostly left-handed. It turns out this preference might be tangled up with the other traits we picked up after our lineage split from the apes, walking upright and shaping stones into tools. In fact, being right-handed may run deeper in our story than agriculture, than language, than fire. And yet, being a lefty carries a hidden advantage of its own. Hold on to that. It matters later. Most people think handedness is a simple switch. You're right-handed or you're left-handed, one or the other, but it's more of a sliding scale. Even if you're strongly right-handed, your left hand is working constantly, steadying the paper while you write, holding the jar while the right one twists the lid. One hand leads the skilled work, the other supports it. The question isn't really which hand you use, it's which one takes charge when something actually takes skill, and that decision gets made somewhere you can't feel it happening. Inside the brain. Each side of your brain controls the opposite side of your body, but the two sides aren't copies of each other. In most people, the left half runs language, planning, and the fine sequence movements that skilled work depends on. And here's where it stops looking like a coincidence. The same half of the brain that handles talking also runs your dominant hand. Why would those two things live in the same place? The answer might come down to what our ancestors spent nearly 2 million years doing with their hands. Because making a stone tool was never just smashing rocks together. It took a precise grip, a specific sequence of strikes, each one landing at exactly the right angle to set up the next. And it took watching someone else do it first, then copying them. That's not strength. That's a skilled, learned, step-by-step routine, which is exactly the kind of thing that left brain hemisphere is built to run. And a skill that demanding comes with a catch. You can't split it evenly between two hands. Practice both and you get two clumsy ones. Feed it all into a single hand and that one becomes precise enough to flake a blade off a rock the same way every time. So the pressure wasn't toward being able to use both, it was toward committing to one. You can feel that commitment for yourself. Try signing your name with your other hand. That shaky, unfamiliar scrawl that comes out isn't your hand being weak. The muscles are fine. It's a lifetime of practice poured into one side and almost none into the other. So that's the theory. Tool use pushed the skill into one hemisphere. That hemisphere runs the right hand and the right hand won. Clean, simple, done. Except there's an animal that quietly ruins it. Kangaroos. They stand upright, like us. And they turn out to have a consistent hand preference too. Except theirs leans left, and they have never made a tool in their lives. Which is a problem, because if standing upright can hand you a dominant side all on its own, and tools clearly aren't required to get one, then tool use can't be the whole story. Something older might be underneath it. That something might be written into your DNA, which sent scientists hunting for the gene, the single switch that decides left or right. They never found it. What they found instead was dozens of genes, maybe hundreds, each one nudging the outcome by a hair. And that finally explains something you've probably watched happen in your own family. Two right-handed parents having a left-handed kid out of nowhere. Two lefties raising a right-hander. Handedness clearly runs in families, but it refuses to follow clean, predictable rules because there was never a single thing to pass down in the first place. Just a whole crowd of tiny influences leaning the odds one way or the other. So it's genetic and it's tangled and it's old. When ancient humans gripped hide or plant fiber between their front teeth and sawed at it with a stone tool, the blade sometimes slipped and scratched the enamel, and the direction of those scratches gives away which hand held the tool. Read the teeth of Neanderthals, and they come back 85 to 90% right-handed. Push further to teeth 500,000 years old, and the marks still lean the same way. The right hand was already winning long before our species even existed, which turns the whole thing around. If leaning right is this deep, this ancient, this consistent across species, why is anyone still left-handed at all? If right won that decisively, why didn't it win completely? This is the advantage I asked you to hold on to. Picture yourself in a fight. Every opponent you've ever faced was right-handed, so your whole defense is quietly built around that. You expect the blow to come from one particular side. Then someone left-handed steps in and suddenly everything arrives from the wrong angle. You're not slower than them, and you're not weaker. Your reflexes have just never once practiced against this. And that gap is measurable. A 2019 study found that left-handed boxers and MMA fighters win noticeably more often than their small share of the population should allow. But the whole advantage rests on a knife's edge. It only works because lefties are rare. The instant they stop being rare, every fighter grows up used to them. The surprise evaporates and the edge is gone, so the trait can never take over. The moment it becomes common, it destroys the exact thing that made it worth having. Which is why, for as far back as we can measure, the number barely moves, right around 1 in 10. The rare hand survives precisely because it stays rare, and the moment it stopped being rare, it would stop being worth anything at all.